everybody, my name is Sherry. Welcome to my stamp studio. So I have had this list. I have weird notes these days. So this was on a piece of scrap paper. You may have seen this card. But we're getting ready to go to Mexico for the Stampin' Up! Trip. And the catalog comes out the same time that we're gone. So I've been frantically trying to get stuff so you have all of the things that you need to celebrate the catalog kickoff next week while I'm not here. So I will, if you're on my email list, then I sent a pretty detailed email this morning. I have a page on my website that has all of my May specials. So I think some of the stuff that I'm using, yes, I'm using the swirly folder today. You can get that free from me. You can get free stamp pads from me or from Stampin' Up. You can get the tutorial bundle. I have a color coach. I have the dappled dots. I have the beige ribbon. So you can go find out how you can get all that in May. Some of it is all of May. Some of it is a catalog kickoff. There's a separate page right now because it's still April. It's a little bit of a tightrope game. Like there's not a May host code yet because it's April. And I don't want to forget that there's the last chance sale. So you will get an email if you're on my email list about that. So I'm trying to converge all this. But then I have this list here telling me these are all the things. I filmed 9 cards in the last 3 days. I have this and then the catalog walkthrough. And then my goal is to be out of here, my office, by like noon to this afternoon. Our Pacers play at 5. What a weird time. Why NBA do you put it at 5? Normally we eat dinner when the game starts like at 7:30. So that is, and so my husband's coming home early. I'm like, you're always home at 5. But you know, it's just how you get some weird weeks. I'm in a weird week. But I have this because I have to remind myself I can't open this catalog to show you. Yeah. And then one little just fun thing before we go, I have filmed my swap. And I wish that these had been ready to go with the swap video, but that's what happens when you're doing things all out of order. I had been looking at some bucket hats. Normally, I spend lots of time outside, and I have very fortunate skin from my father's side of the family, so I very rarely burn. But you know, we're gonna go from winter to summer with no time in between. I've been outside very rarely, so I had been looking at bucket hats. So I don't know if you know, maybe you don't want to know that patchwork bucket hats right now are a thing, but they're like a $500 thing. Like they're so expensive. And now that I've looked at them, you know, all of the social media things have guessed my algorithm and they keep showing. So I wanted a bucket hat that was cute. I would love one of the $500 ones, but I didn't get it. I resisted the urge. But for those of you that are in Stampin' Up, you know that all of the events we go to, we get these little pins. So I think this hat was $7 on Amazon, and I have just added my pins. I added a couple of little patches to it because patchwork trucker hats and patchwork bucket hats, like their patches are all in as well. And then I have this one. So we got a Stampin' Up! Patch at some point. It was a big circle. I had to cut it down, unfortunately, to make it fit. But here is an ode to Mexico for this trip, and then an ode to Disney, where we will be going next, I think it's next May, not during catalog kickoff week. And then some more pins. So they give us these pins all the time for like trading. I have some more that I could add. I don't want to make it too pin heavy. I don't want to like hit myself with a pin. But if you are looking for a way to use your Stampin' Up! Pins, and I've just glued these on here, so now that it has the first coat of glue, I got to go and get it was hard because I waited to the last minute. So now let's go on the card. So that's just a fun thing I wanted to show you. And I'll send a picture. Follow my social media next week and you can see some of the fun things that we're doing there. So for this, I'm going to use the Thoughtful Wishes stamp set and the paper that goes with. In May, if you purchase the suite from me, as is, the paper, the stamps, the dies, the embellishments, I don't remember exactly what's in the suite, but if you purchase the suite from me, then in early June, we will have a class together. So you'll use all of the stuff that comes in your suite, and then I will send you, the cardstock, the other things that you need to complete the projects. That class will be free if you purchase the suite from me. And in in one of the emails, it may be in the email that goes with this video, I will have more information for you about that. And then if you are a demonstrator and you just want to buy the tutorials, or if you don't want all of the suite, you will need the stamps and the paper to make the projects on your own, but there will be just a kit purchase as well. So that is coming, and I always like to have those let you know it's coming right at the beginning because of the fiasco, especially that happened last year with Oh Holy Night, because stuff can sell out. And if it sells out, one, you won't have the pieces because the dies for Oh Holy Night were gone forever. So if this is one of the suites that you're thinking about getting and you want to do the free class, then move that to an earlier order. So it's really pretty stamps, really pretty dies, but the paper, oh my goodness, the paper is just fabulous. So those are the few sheets that didn't get cut for Try It class. Today is, by the time this goes up, registration for that will have closed. So I won't tell you anything about Try It class. So here's the paper. It's just stunning. The color combinations are beautiful. It's got stuff for all year round. It has ones that have obvious looks of nature and ones that are kind of splattery. This is the piece that we didn't use and Try It. So I have a whole lot of these. So at some point we will be doing, I might use these for some die cuts or something in the upcoming class because I didn't use the winter piece. But what I really, really, really love is the thistle stamp, because many of you know that I lived in Scotland when I was younger, and it just makes me feel Scottish. We've been back a couple of times in the last few years. Last year, the Stampin' Up! Trip last year was to Norway, so we started in London. So we started in Scotland. So I just love everything about this suite. So if you want to join me in the online class, do that. So for this, watercolor, our fluid watercolor cardstock is one of my favorite of our cardstocks. And if you follow me, you know I use it all the time. But it's also not the cheapest of our cardstocks, so I try to use every last piece of it as I can. So if you did the tutorial bundle, I think it's April tutorial bundle with me, there's the pieces that I use from that, and then I just keep working down till there's nothing left to use. So what I want to do for this is I took this piece, let's see if I can find the full piece. This was the inspiration for my card, and I really should have saved the piece that had more thistles for the video. Yeah, it's this one. So I cut it first. I lost some of the sky, so I cut 1/4 inch off here, so that made my whole piece be 5 1/4, and then I cut this into 3-inch strips so I could get 2 cards out of it. So that's how I did that. And then I'm going to mount it on crumb cake, and then here's a little piece of fresh Highland Heather. Highland Heather is kind of the same thing as Scottish thistle, right? Oh, I love the Highlands. Just love, love, love them. If you've never been and it's on your bucket list, move it to the top, which I know I should say that about Australia, but Scotland's way easier to get to. So I am going to use our Stampin' Right markers because I want to replicate this watercolor look that is throughout all of this paper. So if you get this and you're doing the class, know we're going to do some of this technique because you'll be getting some watercolor paper. I have chosen the colors that are in the paper. So I have olive, moss, gorgeous grape, and blackberry. And we are just going to color the mossy meadow. Whoops. Okay, so here's the deal. This means bullet tip. This means brush tip. But I'm kind of, oops. Goodness gracious, I need to slow down. I have a lot to do today. Get that green off of the flower. So I'm going to color the leaves in this stem with my mossy meadow, and I started right there with that flower. The nice thing about this is it doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to watercolor it. That's why we're using the watercolor paper. And there's several different ways that you can do this technique. I had the water painter on the table because I've been painting a lot recently. But you could also use a spritzer. So the spritzer may come in your class. It may be one of the things that we do. So here's the problem when I wasn't going to put a class before we go on vacation because my mind doesn't turn off. So I will be, I'm sure, sitting on the beach in Mexico instead of just sitting. I'll be thinking, oh, what can I do for that class? At least I like my job. It's not like past jobs where I've had, where you think about your job and it's not a fun job. So we're going to come back to the old olive, and then I am going to take my gorgeous grape. I'm just going to add it here. So I'm doing it mostly to the tops, but I'm going into that little center bit just a tad. And then I'm going to grab my old olive. Get a little bit of that right here. And they'll mix, but if you look at the paper is messy and blurry and smudgy. So if you stamp that and you're like, oh, this is messy and blurry and smudgy, you're matching the paper. Sometimes I think we're a little hard on ourselves. So I'm blowing some hot air on it. And then I'm just going to stamp this on here. I thought about adding the blue. But some of these cards I've done in stages, and then I come back to them and I'm like, do I want to add the blue, or is it going to smear it now that it's almost done? When you use the watercolor cardstock, you want to give it time for it to absorb. So this really doesn't look great compared to that. I don't know why I don't need that on there. So some of you would be like, well, I'm going to throw that away. But watercolor cardstock is designed to be painted on, and because it's so thick, sometimes the ink, you saw how long I left it there, it doesn't soak into the paper. But this is like total magic. So you're just going to take your water painter, and remember, it's smudgy and blurry, but as you paint over the top. So this first time I am going to kind of stay on the lines because you don't want to lose the stamp, and you could easily lose the stamp on this because there's not a ton of ink. But this is pretty blurry. So if yours gets too blurry, just look at the paper and you'll feel much better about your stamping abilities. So I'm just kind of dragging it. I don't want a ton of water to come out at first. If I get it smeared just a little bit and then go back. But look how much brighter that is. Look at that leaf there compared to the stem. Wait till you see when I do it on the grape. So just kind of get those filled in. And then for the actual thistles, I am just dabbing the water on. It helps it stay a little bit painty. If too much of water starts coming out of your brush, get it off your tip. You don't want too much water for this. Sometimes when we use watercolor cardstock, we use tons of water. This is not one of those times. So we have that. Now here's a little fun thing you can do. You may have thought my stamps look dirty. So I'm going to take my olive marker and just put a little bit of stuff here. A long time ago, when we didn't have tons of ways to color, at my in-person events, we would scribble on styrofoam plates. And then we would just use that for a palette. That way everybody could have it. I didn't have a ton of stuff, but you didn't need it. All you needed was a little marker and a little bit of scribble, and everybody could paint. Back then we actually sold paint brushes. So it was in water. So if that's what you have, you can use that. It will work. The secret to this is to make sure that you get everywhere, because if you leave one that doesn't have any paint on it, it's going to look like it doesn't belong. It's going to give away the fact that you stamped it. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my blackberry. Just a little dab. So I mean, literally, if you had the Stampin' Art markers, this technique, you could use ink in them forever. And with this, I'm just going to dab the base, just to give it a little bit of shading. Now that I left a little bit more water, and see, I'm still kind of tempted to put the blue, but I don't want to smear it too much. And normally I would do it and kind of test it. I've just run out of time. I will show you. We're going to put the word missing you on here, and I tried different ways of getting it. And then finally I was like, stop, you don't have time to keep testing it. So I'm not going to test the blue because it looks good without it. We're going to set that aside just for a second and let it dry. So one of the things that you can earn free, one of the fun new things that's in the catalog, is the new swirly folder. Roll my, I have my cut and emboss machine on a rolly thing. So it's huge, humongous. And as you can see, it does almost a half a sheet of cardstock, not quite. So if you put it, you don't want to put it all the way into the fold because that's not good for your folder, and it overhangs just a little bit. But I'm going to do my whole piece through this. Now, it is not a 3D folder. So it means it doesn't squish your paper quite as much as a 3D. Oops. But it also means that you don't use the gray plate. You are going to put it on your platform and then sandwich it between these two. So let me do this for you. So now we have our whole entire card is going to have some texture. Isn't that fun? And then this, if we still had our settle, I would use it because I wanted it to look like it's on watercolor paper. But this actually does a pretty good fill in. So I'm just going to put this piece in here and again run this through. So all of this dead space up here, it kind of just, look how pretty that side is. This is just really pretty paper. So now it kind of just gives a slight texture because it's not 3D. So it does, I mean, it's got an obvious texture. I remember back when we first got folders and we would spritz them with water to try to get it to be deeper, and then we had 3D. So sometimes now I appreciate having the lighter texture. So when you fold this in half, because it has gone through the embossing folder, the paper doesn't feel, you know, anytime you bend and roll paper up, it just kind of loses its stiffness. I don't know what the word is. But I want the whole card to be this because I love that. And I love the fact that we now have the option to do that. So what I did was I took a piece of vanilla, and originally it was 4 by 5 1/4. But then when you put this inside here, it covers up the whole thing, and then there's not much point. You can see the back. So get my hats off of my paper trimmer. This is still cut from my first card. You can see over here, right? I just made it a little bit smaller. So let's go about 3 1/4 maybe. I don't know what my other one was. It looks about like that's how much I cut off. And then let's do 4 3/4. This way we're gonna get to see more of the paper when we put it in here. So now you can still see that it has the fun pattern. So I want to put my stamping on this. So here's this. I have not done anything else to it. I've stamped it on here, and it still has some ink left on it. And that's the wonderful thing about our markers, is that I remember when I was younger, much younger, and I would do workshops and we used the markers a lot because that's what we had. And I would tell them that, you know, my daughter was like 2. 3. And I would say, you know, even if you have to go tend to your kids, which these days, thankfully, she's an adult. She does not live at home anymore. But if you get interrupted, you can come back to it because all you do is blow some hot air on it. And especially when you're a young mom, you often have some of that because you're talking all the time. So just kind of used to call it huff on it. Huff on it. And look, I want it to be settled because now I'm going to take my black. In the front, remember, it's going to say missing you on the front. These are sentiments that came out of the set. So I'm going to put it right here. If I do it here, there's a little bit of watercolor. What you really should do if you want this to be watercolored is watercolor a little swatch of paper so it looks like one of these. Then let it completely dry and come back to it, or use your StazOn. But at this point, I did not have my StazOn pad out. And I should have thought about painting a little piece, but you would have to do it significantly ahead. So now it says missing you, dearest friend, and this will go on the inside of our card. Because nothing is prettier than having the inside. My goal for my card club this year, and I always say this year because, you know, I give myself the freedom to let go of it if it doesn't work, but we are doing the envelopes. We're decorating the envelopes. So we have that. Now this is dry enough that I'm going to take the die. Okay, so there's that. Isn't that not just gorgeous? So I mean, you can add the blue. You can most certainly play around with it. You could even probably take a dauber and just add little touches of blue. But I kind of like that it's a focal point when you put it on here. So I have just a little piece because this is 3 inches and I felt like it was a little empty. So this is Highland Heather, and it is, I don't know, maybe 1 inch. I always flip my paper over even though both sides are the same. 1 inch by 5 1/2. And it also will just sturdy up our card a little bit since it's all gone through. When you get this folder, because you can get it free from me in May, then you'll see what I mean. Like, it's still fine. It just needs a little bit of sturdy. And then I'm going to take this. This one's going to be a little bit different than my other one because the other one has more heather or thistles on it. I'm going to put it a little bit higher so it goes up into the sky. And then I'm going to take my twine And I'm going to wrap it around 2 times. And then I'm just tying a knot. I've been tying a lot of knots. Well, I did them on my swaps. So if you watch the swap video, originally the mock-up had a bow, and then I thought, you're crazy if you're going to tie all these bows when you got so much to do. But I think because I've been in a hurry, knots are always, they're great. And they also don't cover up your design. So I have this. I like to do it tight, but you don't want to bend the sides of your paper. So be careful that it's tight enough that it's not going to slide off. I also, because I've been in a hurry, I've been wasting a lot of ribbon like this, but it's okay. Right. Add this one here. And then here's the missing you that, nope, those are my messed up ones. Here's the missing you. I'm just going to trim it out. And then over here we'll make it into a little bit. This has a tiny bit of blackberry on it from where I overpainted on one of those. It's pretty crooked. Just a tiny bit of adhesive on here. And then for the embellishments for this, I pulled out something that was in last year's annual catalog, but it's carrying over. So this is the 3-color Tinsel Gems. If you are in club, this month we used the 4-color, but there is 3, and there's no Lost Lagoon because I needed 47 more after I did those for last riot class when these were brand new. But both colors actually worked for this, but I'm gonna go with, I think this is probably Freesia. So let's do 5. Those, we have 2 large ones at the bottom, and then we'll stagger up with the smaller ones. So I bought these obviously when we did the try it class last year and used up all the Lost Lagoon, and I've not replaced any, so I still don't have any Lost Lagoon. So let's take a look. Aren't they pretty? This stamp is pretty, and you could do the same technique, and we probably will in the class. Or we'll incorporate in some embossing or something, heat embossing in with it, but with the other stamp that is in these 2. So if you got my free tutorial, the international bundle, this is the one I used on that card, also watercolored. And then we have the really pretty inside. Oh, I guess I did paint that one a little bit. I forgot because it's been a minute since I made this one. All I have left now to film is my catalog walkthrough. So come back on May 1st and watch that. I couldn't film it until I had all of my cards done because I wanted to have as many samples as I could to show you. So everybody have a great day. And if you are contacting me and it's after April 26th, I may try to catch my catch up on emails right before we leave on Sunday. But otherwise, it will be May 6th or 7th when I'm back in my office. Have a great one. Thanks. Bye.